G'day, Bill Hohepa, and welcome to this, the first of our little series we're calling Low Gear Revisited. What we're going to do is look at some of the 300 odd programs that we've done with talking trucks and low gear and bring some of the highlights that people really enjoyed. So I've also got to tell you that I've written a book, and there's an ad in the show that highlights that, and you'll be able to buy your copy. So sit back, relax and enjoy this, our first episode of Low Gear Revisited. On the trucking Facebook pages, there's been a lot of talk about the old International R190s that were on the logs. I'd hate to think just how many R190s actually came to New Zealand, but they were certainly a popular choice in trucks, especially on the logging work. We did an R190 special a few years ago with Bob Ellis, so let's begin our show there. Mount Maunganui has always been suitable for shipping activities, and in 1953 they started building the wharf there. The first ship tied up to it in December 1954. In 1957 the first shipment of logs went to Japan, 150 odd tonnes. And this is the subject of our story, Mount Maunganui as a destination for export pine logs, and the many international R190s that took them there from a variety of central New Zealand forests. Thousands of pine logs are stored at the Mount, as it's commonly known in the logging industry, and hundreds turn up there every day. Our Pinus radiata trees came from California around 1860 and proved to be a very fast growing tree, and in the beginning they were just grown as shelter belts for farms. In the early 1900s the pine tree was seen as an excellent source of timber, and in the 1920s and 30s thousands of acres were planted mainly in the central North Island, and these trees would be ready for harvest in the 1950s. Before the pine plantations were ready, we were using native trees as our timber source, and after the war the old GMC was the truck that moved these trees to the mills. After the GMCs came other trucks, mainly British, but the predecessor to the popular International R190 was the International L Series, and many logging operators were using these trucks as their truck of choice. In the 1950s they used loading areas they called skids, probably because the logs were skidded along and onto the back of the trucks. Around 1954 the R Series arrived in New Zealand and were powered by the International Red Diamond big block petrol engines, doing something like 2 or 3 miles per gallon when they were loaded. Kinleith Mill began production in 1953, having been built by New Zealand Forest Products. New Zealand Forest Products had a fleet of R190s as their logging trucks, and the familiar orange truck with the green pine logo on the door and the pole trailer on the back became a familiar sight around the central North Island. Other logging contractors soon appeared on the scene. Jim Deutsch, Mike Lambert are very famous names in this industry. The R190 was well known for having twin sticks. That's a separate gear lever for a high and low gearbox. And you hear some very fancy stories about how to operate twin sticks. Another popular truck of the time was a White, and it was very similar to the R190. In the early days, I actually worked for the Whakatane board mills, living in their logging town they called Matahina, about 20 k's south of Te Teko. That's me, fourth from the left. Now we're going to join Bob Ellis with his R190, and we're actually going to take a load of logs to the Mount. I'm with Bob Ellis, and Bob, we're heading out for a job. That's exciting. Where are we going?
Heading off down to Aotearoa to Pukeremu Forest, which is in Olsen's Forest, to pick up a load of 11 metre for the Mount.
A load of 11 metre, what does that mean? Is that the length of the log?
That's the length of the log, Bill. Yep.
So, and how far have we got to go?
From here probably 40 minutes, 45 minutes to the forest. It's not too far, just the side of Taupo.
And we're leaving from Rotorua. With the Jinker on the back, how many guys would have one like that today?
Working trucks, probably none, unless you're a steams truck out the bush, which is a similar setup, but they can't full-length logs. But as a highway truck, there'd be none. In its day, that's all you could see on the road with these things here, with a pole or a 3-axle trailer. But these days, it's all shorts trucks with multi-bolster trailers. So yeah, the long logs are still a few getting done, but nowhere near as what they used to be.
Now the pole's sticking out the front. I just remember Uncle Harry saying, that with the ring, it just backed into two receivers with a hole, and you just shoved an old axle in between them to hold it all there.
Yeah, well, mine sits, as you can see, in the front of the staunchions. That's what actually holds it on. You lift it up over the staunchions, and then you just hook it up and you go from there.
But back in the day, you just use an axle.
Just whatever you can find, just pop it in.
Right.
because once the load's on, there's actually not much weight on that, or if any, on the pole itself. It's the load that holds it together.
Sure. I'm just noticing your artillery wheels. Do you enjoy those? Are they easy to do?
Well, I mean, it's in the day that's all I had. I mean, these days we've got 10-stud aluminium wheels, most of them.
What's powering it?
In this truck, we have a 671 Detroit diesel, approximately 240 horsepower.
That was quite big back in 1965.
Well, yeah, I can remember when I was a kid in Tamaroo going for a ride with the late Barry Towell and one of Bob Dedman's trucks in the 1964, and that had a 671 on it. It was a big truck in the day, huge truck.
Oh, we're at the beginning of the forestry road. Now, there's a story with these. You've got the trucks coming, trucks going. You have to be aware. It's pretty narrow.
Yeah, well, it's only sort of virtually one way, and you always got to keep in radio contact just in case anybody else is coming out the other way. But yeah, a lot of the forestry roads like that these days.
So you can talk to the bush gang from way out in the road.
Yep. Yeah, no, we can't. Yeah, the radio's pretty good like that.
What about the dust? Does that get to you?
In this particular truck it does, but in my working truck now we just close the windows, put the air conditioning on, which is pretty good, but you get used to it.
Uncle Harry was saying that when he came home, must have been about 40k out from Minganui, and his wife could hear him, so she'd, oh, here he comes, I'll put the tea on.
Yeah, well, the Detroits did have a bit of a reputation in the day of being quite noisy, and they still are, but brilliant engine, absolutely brilliant engine.
Now, we're right here, folks, at the logging gang, and this is where we're going to pick our load up to take to Mount Maunganui. And Bob, there's a system, there's a queue system, like if you turn up, that's where you are in the queue.
Yeah, normally during the day when they dispatch, there could be one or two, maybe three trucks in front of you, so you just sort of wait there and take your turn, as you can see, one at a time. So it's all cool.
He's got a fair stack of logs on that truck.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of pop, but yeah.
So looking at all those logs, there's short ones, long ones, some in the middle ones. Can you just describe the type of logs that they carry?
Probably the ones you see on this truck coming out now is pulp. Pulp. Yeah, that'll go to either the board mills or Kinleith or Carrail.
So that load wouldn't be going to the mill?
No.
Okay. He's going to lift that trailer off. That's a reasonably sized trailer. And but I'm just saying, Uncle Harry with his one night here, they just sort of arrived. He'd back up somewhere, jam the brakes on, and the trailer would bounce off, and then they'd hook it up. And that's a 4-axle trailer.
4-axle, yeah.
And that's just part of the norm. The digger driver just does that.
Yeah, it probably weighs about 5.5 tonne, but no trouble to the digger. But that's the configuration here is probably 90% of the trucks these days.
I just see those bolsters they just fold up and fold down.
Yeah, they're all spring loaded, so you don't hit your back when you stand them up.
Those skidders are amazing things. They're a great big ugly machine, aren't they?
Yeah, they're there to do the job. It's purposely built to do that.
And who thought of Who the Truck Is Alice? Is that you?
Well, it sort of started a few years back when I had my other trucks, my high-up trucks, and we sort of had that song of
Living next door to Alice.
That's it, yeah. So we just put Who the Truck Is in instead of the swear word. So that's cool.
That's very good. Now you've come to your turn to get loaded, and I guess they're going to lift your trailer off.
Yep.
With that pole sticking out so far, is that, will they maybe lift the back up? Is there a reasonable chance it's going to smack the top of your roof?
If you have the lifting chain in the wrong place, it's quite possible it will dong it on the roof.
Yeah.
But that's why you sort of have them, so when you lift the pole comes up first. As you see, when you lift it, it'll lift a little bit before the back for the actual trailer itself.
How long does it take for a digger driver to learn how to do this?
It depends, but some guys are pretty good. This guy's not too bad. Old Mark, he's pretty good on his job. Him and the other loader driver, old Quincy, they're not too bad.
We did it with Dale. They had some Peterbilts in Tokoroa, and the guy that was driving this loading machine there, he could just tap everything, push everything, and everything was just so.
Some of them are pretty accurate.
You can just be able to play the piano.
You can, yep.
That's and let alone the guy up in the bush that's actually cutting the trees. He's got 2 TV remotes in each hand.
Yep.
And cutting it, trimming it, slicing it. That's just an amazing skill.
Oh, those the ones that actually do the processing. It's all on the computer screen. Yeah, it's pretty pretty out of it.
And speaking of computers, I just noted that the end of each log's got a number and some letters. What does that relate to?
Normally on the end of the log it'll be the gang number and the grade. Yeah, like we're putting on 11.1 A grade, and we'll have A on the end of it with the gang number 74 on the end.
So who takes notice of that in the chain of things?
Well, that's just the standard thing these days with the gang. So when it gets to wherever it's going, people know where it came from.
I saw in Gisborne when we were loading they were loading some ships. There were barcodes on the end of the logs.
Yeah, what happens is, as you'll see, once we end up getting to the mount, to the tally office, they staple those on, and that's how they tally the logs, is they put the barcode on and then they measure it, and that all goes into the computer.
Okay, so that's not done till it gets to the measuring.
No, it doesn't get done till we get to the mount.
What about the ones going to the paper mill? The pulp stuff?
No, they don't.
That's just by ton.
It's just pulp. It just gets chipped, so not much point putting a barcode on that.
No, I'm just saying, so it's just paid out by tonnage.
Yeah, they just got the gang number on most of the ends of the log, same as everybody else.
Is there a rule about where you can stand?
There is now, because I think of all a few accidents that's been people getting either hurt or killed. There is a new rule now where you can only stand at the cab of the truck or in it, or 6 metres away from it, or if you're in radio contact, probably a little bit closer, but that's the rule at this stage.
I noticed when we were at Gisborne and they were loading the boat that the trucks that were bringing the loads around to be taken off the boat and put on the ship, those guys got out of their cabs and actually had to walk away from the truck.
Okay, well, maybe that's a rule down here, but
yeah.
When we go to the mount, we're still allowed to stay on the truck, which is, yeah.
When you're loading it, the first log, is that important in terms of weight distribution or how you get the rest of the loads going to sit?
Well, it is. If you get the first one right, the other ones just sit in the same way, but if you don't get the first one right, you could be either too heavy on the truck or too heavy on the trailer. So as you can see, I'm running backwards and forwards, getting it right. So that's all good.
And that's your responsibility.
That's
if it's wrong, you get the ticket.
No, I get the ticket, mate. Even if the loader driver's wrong, still my ticket.
Tell me about isn't it supposed to work backwards? So even though it's loaded wrong, he loaded it, so should he get a bit of the ticket as well? No?
My responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't buck shove anything?
No, the buck stops with me.
Fair enough.
I loaded it, my responsibility.
Your truck.
Yeah.
And that's all important, I guess, yeah. So how many logs are you going to put on today?
Well, just speaking to Mark, he reckons the Baileys are taking between 15 and 17, so we'll probably go to the lower end of 15. It's probably going to be a little bit light, but I don't really want to kill the old girl off.
No, and that's what we're here for, folks. We're just here to show the old R190 at work. And it's good that actually there's one capable of going out on the road and carting a load from the bush gang out to the mountain. There wouldn't be too many who could do this, would there?
I know Dave's 200. He still does a bit of transporting with it. He still works it every now and again. But yeah, that's a good truck. Yeah, so
and I see old JD's 230.
Yeah, the 230.
It's working.
Yeah, no, it still works. Yeah, probably more than JD does. Oh.
Yeah. Well, looks like we're just about ready to go, folks, and we're going to drag all these logs on the old R190. How long do it take to get it to the mount?
From here, well, with this I've only got 240 horsepower, mate, so it probably takes a good hour, maybe an hour, maybe two.
And how many loads in the day would they expect you to do?
Oh, you do 2 out of there a day, in the day.
Oh, okay, well.
Yeah.
And back in the time you maybe do 3?
Yeah, well, if you really had a good day, they'd expect you to do 3.
Gee. Now, I remember when Uncle Harry was talking about sometimes something happened to the trains and they get special dispensation or a special permit to take the logs direct to Auckland because the train had broken down or whatever the reason. And it would be 24 hours, and Uncle Malcolm would make Harry do as many loads as he could in those 24 hours. Come back,
because it was probably 3 times the price. So if
so he's going to make a quid out of it.
Make $1 out of it, because it never happened much in those days against the rail. We're probably not that heavy.
What would you be, 20 tonne?
I might have 20-ton payload on if I'm lucky.
Oh, okay.
I
I think you got 14 logs on. 1, 2, 3, 4,
15.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, I deliberately kept it light just in case I don't want to kill the old girl off.
And they're about a ton each, those logs, are they? Or
Roughly,
yeah.
probably a ton and a bit. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, we saw some old footage of Trevor Deutsch's trucks. I think they were all, some in the bush and some getting lined up for a great big photograph. And BCFs and R190s and some butter boxes. And
yeah, well, they're pretty basic. In those, I mean, there was no bling in those days. It was just cab and chassis bolsters, and away you go.
There you go, yeah.
Yep. Yep. When I was a kid, you were allowed to go for a ride in the truck, and you just grew up in the truck, and that's what you wanted to do. But with the new rules and regulations these days, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to ride in the truck, and you can't go to this place, you can't go to that place. So the kids are not interested because
they certainly wouldn't have been allowed to be here.
Oh, not at all, not at all. You know that well. He wouldn't load me if I had someone in the cab.
Right. That's interesting, isn't
it?
Yeah. The incentive and the inspiration, that I had when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, sitting in this great big truck. Oh, when I grow up, I'm going to drive one of these. And then you went down through the teenage years, and you actually got to drive one, and you got shown how the gears work, and go wide a bit on the corners with the big trailers, and blah blah blah. And you were inspired. You were.
They didn't have spoke wheels in your day, Bill.
No.
Here, slap me whenever you want. Just being smart, but
I might have to reach across. Mind you, this cab's narrow enough to do that.
Yeah, it is.
Just about give you an elbow poke.
Yep. No, she's they were never made really for comfort, although they call it a Vision cab. But
That's right.
in the day, it was a big truck, and it's still a neat truck today. That's why I still like doing this sort of stuff.
Just explain that gear lever to me.
Well,
you got button on the inside, button on the outside.
Yeah, well, see, that there, because you used to drive a 2-speed.
Yep.
The Road Ranger's got that's the high and low button on the left hand side there.
Yeah.
So you do your 5 or 4, 5 it is, your first 5 on the bottom, and then you pull a lever up, the button up, and you do the 5 again.
Yeah.
The little button on the other side is actually clutch brake. So when you go to put in gear, just push the button and slows the gearbox down so you can put it in gear.
Right.
But this particular truck has got a deep reduction on the dash.
Right. And where's your, you push something on the dash for the engine brake?
Yeah, there's a little switch there. We just flick it on and off when we want to use it.
Right.
Yep.
When we watched the Deutsch video, we come past Depoy, which is where we are now, heading towards the Kaimais. And you come up to the intersection between where you come from Matamata and keep going, or you come from this way.
Yep.
But it was just interesting. That little bit of a straight is the only bit of a run up you're going to get.
That's it, mate. So I would say by the time we hit the hill, we're going to be down to sort of second or third in the low range.
When did you first have anything to do with the Kaimai?
Oh, years ago, when I worked for Forest Haulage in the day.
So the road was a bit narrow and a bit windy?
No, it was basically what it is now. It was sort of a little bit different in the late 60s, early 70s, but they've improved it a hell of a lot since then.
You know how high they are? What from where you start at the bottom to where you get at the top, what sort of...
You're getting technical, Bill.
Distance, what are you, sort of like 300 metres, 400 metres?
Probably a little bit more than that, I would say. Yeah, it's quite a steep climb.
Yeah. I was looking at that old footage of those BCFs coming up, taking wide on the corners, and really slow.
The road in those days was quite narrow,
Yeah.
But it's got passing lanes all the way up now, which is most essential with the traffic that goes over it. But yeah, everybody will be passing me up today. That's all right.
Awesome. Jenner's Worldwide Freight. They provide simplified, custom-built solutions to your supply chain needs. Their 37 years of experience and their team of experts find the answers to your freight challenges. They work hard to understand what matters most to you and your clients. Check them out at www.jenners.co.nz. That's www.jenners.co.nz. Hi everyone, my new book, Talking Trucks, is now available. I'll just read you what Alex McClellan of McClellan Freight in Balclutha had to say in the foreword. This book is the result of many miles travelled, many people met, and many vehicles and machines documented. As people pass on, their stories go with them. So it was great that Bill and Linda could document their stories, not only for their historic value to New Zealand, but also to the families of the people who took the time to pass it on through Bill's shows. I think this book goes some way to honouring that responsibility. Thank you, Alex. I also spoke to Gavin Abbott, and Gavin, as you know, is an author himself, written something like 6 or 7 or 8 trucking books, and he said, well, Bill, as you know, I've read a few trucking books in my time, but I have to tell you that this book is up there with the best of them. So there you go. If you'd like to get your copy, the easiest way is to go to our webpage at www.lowgear.co.nz or flick me an email, billhoheper@extra.co.nz, or perhaps even just give me a call, 027 277 0717, and we can sort out the details. So there you go. Talking Trucks, now available, and maybe you get your copy for a gift for Father's Day. Mount Maunganui, there she is. And coming across the bridge there, heading to the destination.
Yep, we're off to the
And
wharf.
you're just one of hundreds.
Oh, one of hundreds, mate. There's just trucks coming out of there all day and all night. Yep, just about 7 days a week.
So they go 24 hours, that
Yep.
collection of
Yes.
log place.
Yep, they do.
Has it got a name?
We're actually going to the tele office they call works under C3, which is probably the main tele office at the wharf at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, there we are.
Now just explain to us what's happening here, Bob.
Well, what happens is I take my docket into the office, and then they give you those barcode tickets you're talking about.
Yes, yep.
They give you those, and they staple them onto the small end of the log.
So,
Right.
so they put a rail over or something across
Yeah.
the back.
Well, they can do, but
I knew they were doing that at Gisborne. I mean,
Yeah.
you go forward, they drop this little sort of like a gangway, and the guy walks out and stapled all the.
yeah, well, they do that here too, but they can get on the back of my truck, so they just do it that one, then they just get on the back and do the other ones. But they're all small end that they put them on.
So how many gangs are working in here? 3, 4.
It's probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 guys working all the time.
That young lady's putting the little stickers on with the barcodes.
Yes, and then
And those barcodes will stick with those logs until they get wherever they're going.
Yep. Yeah, and then you'll get another guy comes through and he'll what they call wand them, measure them and wand them. And then see there, you'll see the guy there with his ruler. He'll go in there and measure them.
How long does this take? Like 15, 20 minutes?
Well, it depends how many logs you got on most of the time, Bill. But with a milo there, probably 10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
But you can sit there sometimes up to, depending on the queue, 2 hours.
The queue.
Queue, brother.
So when you arrive there, you're just hoping that queue's not too long.
Yes. Yep.
So what's the longest you've ever waited?
2 hours, 2 and a
2
bit.
hours.
So actually, one day I think it was about 2.5.
Look at that. Kenworth, R190,
Right.
and
the one on the
Western
outside.
Star.
The one on the, yeah, Kenworth, 190 Western Star, yep. And he got them, we're off. We're off.
Now what happens? You've had them all measured. Where we go?
We're going around to the unchaining bay, just around the corner a little bit, where you've got a designated area to take the chains off. And once we do that, we just call up the stacker on my little radio.
You know most of the other drivers?
Yeah, well, it's a pretty well close-knit fraternity, I'd say. Everybody sort of knows everybody. If they don't, they know who you are,
Yeah. Right.
which is pretty good. Let me show that one over far enough, didn't I?
There's a little knack to this. We watched one of the guys in the Tokoroa bush. He just give it a sort of a spin. And
Yep.
the way she went.
Yep.
Imagine having to go and have to undo the twitch off the top of your blow.
Well, that's what they did in the day. Yep.
Real men.
Yep. That's what men were men and drivers were drivers.
Yeah. What's the next one down from a driver? Is there a steerer? And then there's something even further down from that. And I just forget what that
It's a
one's
pointer.
called. A pointer. Point. Hope for the
They
best.
just point it and hope for the best, brother.
These are a big machine. And looking at taking off your load, looks like it probably sort of probably get another 3 lots of the same.
Oh, you'll probably find that stacker there, that particular one, probably can lift 40 tonne.
And there's an even bigger one still on the other side.
Yep. You know, they're a big
Enormous
machine.
machines, yeah.
They're a big machine, yep.
How long have they been around?
Well, actually, they've still got some on the wharf there that are sort of late 60s, early 70s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they don't really wear out that quick.
Uncle Harry getting this 100-foot log loaded with something similar, except this is 1960.
Yeah.
You know, and it's in the bush, but it was a big machine for its time, and it's putting on the 100-footer log that they put on the guy.
Yep.
Look at the logs. I mean, it must be millions.
No, there is. Yeah, no, there's a lot of logs there, mate. And that's the wharf's. The wharf's half empty. So yeah, here we are at the gantry. Just line the hook up, hopefully.
Is that by guess, or you got a little mark on the side?
There was a mark on the ground, but it's mostly guesswork. You'll probably find when I go to back up, it'll be about 3 or 4 goes before I actually get it on there.
I just noticed there's a couple of funny-looking sticks lying about. What are they for?
Well, when not so much on mine, but you'll notice on the other trailers that when the hook brings the chain down, they just put the bit of wood up, and instead of having to get up and throw it off by hand, they just put the bit of wood up and flick it off the hook.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Bit of Kiwi ingenuity there, brother.
That's fast running out.
Yeah, it is, like the number 8 wire.
As I say, over the 4 years we've been doing this show, the things you did back in the day, you certainly can't do today. And I think the good old Kiwi can do is becoming the good old Kiwi can't do.
Yes, yeah.
Because you need this form, you need that form, you need this, that, and the other.
Yeah, we're certainly getting over-regulated in the industry, right? There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Do you think the people who make all these rules who are in Wellington have ever actually been out and, done this?
Do you really want me to answer that?
Yeah, I
Bill?
do.
Probably not.
No.
As I say, because the trailer's on that angle now, it's a little bit hard to guess, but we'll turn it around, it'll go on. We'll sort it. It's no stress.
So you got somebody there giving you hell. There's
Yeah.
that stick. Look, there's the stick we were talking about.
Yeah,
Just a piece of bloody manuka or something, isn't it?
You know, Pumba's there. Pumba's there giving us a hand. He's a good guy.
Well, there you go, folks. End of a challenging day on the old R190. And if you had an R190, we hope you enjoyed this and it brought back a few memories. If you'd like to get your copy, the easiest way is to go to our webpage at www.lowgear.co.nz or flick me an email, billhohepper@extra.co.nz, or perhaps even just give me a call, 027 277 0717, and we can sort out the details. So there you go, Talking Trucks, now available, and maybe you get your copy for a gift for Father's Day. The original R190s at Forest Products had twin sticks. Now here's Paul McNay going through his twin sticks with no clutch.